You're listening to the Super League Pod, coming up on episode 135 of your favourite rugby league podcast. Tom and Mark are here with all your feedback and shout-outs, news from around the world of rugby league. We look back at last week's competition play in Super League, as well as previewing round 7 of upcoming competition play. Strap yourselves in, kids. It's time for your podcast, the Super League Pod. Okay everyone, hello and welcome to the Super League Pod. As always, Tom and Mark here with everything rugby league orientated that you've come to expect from us. And one of us has never known comfort like it in the podcast studio before, have we, Mark?
Yeah, this is a different experience for you guys listening. Tom's reclined and has his feet up on his usual chair and has himself in a comfy cushioned wicker effort.
Well, I've hurt my back a little bit, so rather than being obvious physical discomfort throughout the recording, I've kind of pressed an easy chair into service, and I'm feeling pretty good. I think this might be the way to go from now on, Mark. But once I recover, I'll be all egalitarian and get back in my normal seat, so that you don't feel too left out. But I'm doing all right. How are you? How's your week been?
Well, I think we should start with your week. It sounds like you've had an eventful one. You've been to York.
I have been to York, yes.
Statuses have changed on Facebook.
Yes, well, a gentleman never tells, and it's far be it from me to go all Ron Burgundy and broadcast some Veronica Corningstone-esque declaration of love. Yes, statuses have been updated, and no, I had a lovely weekend. My Emma, as opposed to your Emma, and I went away to York on Sunday, and more to follow on that in terms of SLP recommends, because I picked up some good recommends whilst we were away.
Oh, that's good. We're off to York, me and my Emma, in June.
Oh, well, I can definitely point in the right direction of a few good places, especially eateries. We set off bright and early, very bright and early, because the clocks went forward, didn't they, on Saturday, so I hadn't legislated quite for that, so we were out the door at like 7:30 on Sunday morning, got over to York and did the dungeons and the pub where Guy Fawkes was born for a livener early doors, and potted around the shops, had a bit of a walk by the river, went to the Minster and saw. Well, we actually took in the Evensong service at the Minster at 4:00 because they were inviting the public into that. So we went in and the church was bathed in sunlight, and it all, of course, through the architecture of the Minster, kind of shone through the stained glass windows and lit the place up beautifully. And then we went and saw the Evensong service, which was done by, obviously, not the Archbishop of York, but one of his, I don't know how the hierarchy within the church goes, but we'll call him minions, an underling. But there was the boys' choir there as well, so canons possibly.
Deacons, I don't know what type of church it is.
Exactly.
I assume it's a Protestant church, because they used to, hang everyone who didn't like the king. They used to take them all to York, didn't they, back in the day?
I think they've killed a lot of people in York historically. Yeah. I think they've in the arc of history, they've kind of been quite
one of my potential
open about who they kill.
One of my potential ancestors was held there for a while.
Really?
Because he defied the king's church by not paying his taxes to the church.
Don't you have a relative who had something to do with inventing Lurpak spreadable?
I do have.
I don't know where that has sprung from.
Yes, my granddad's nephew, I believe, who's called David Illingworth, moved to New Zealand some time ago.
Right.
And was...
Didn't see us taking this tangent, did you?
And was involved in the people who produced the first spreadable butter mix. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you very much.
He was
as a fan of spreadable butter, I can only say thanks.
He was commemorated along with New Zealand did a series of stamps a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, of great Kiwi inventions.
That's fabulous.
And their invention, him and the guy who did it with him, was one of the ones that got a stamp. So yeah.
Did they get their faces on the stamp, or was it the Lurpak trombonist?
I can't. I don't know. My grandma's got a set of the stamps that I posted over a few years ago. But yeah, there you go.
That's incredible. That's so good. I knew. I don't know how we've got onto this. But we heard the choir in York Minster, and we sat and listened to that. They did the evening song. Just beautiful. I mean, what a setting to do that in, regardless of your faith and what have you. But to be in that building, in that architecture, with the light the way it was, and to hear that noise that this choir was creating, because it's not your common or garden outlier church choir. These are the kids that train and not do it professionally, but do it well and compete and it was just fabulous. It was really wonderful. So it was a good day. It was very, very.
Were you there and back in the same?
Very good. We did it in a day trip. Yeah, yeah. We had planned to go away for 2 days, but circumstances intervened. But we're certainly planning to go back and spend a day and a night there, rather than just a long day trip, I would say.
There you go.
So there you go. Yeah, and I have to say thank you to the Super League pod listeners who've almost to a man commented that I appear to be punching above my weight. In terms of this young lady, I'll try and keep that from her. Although I'm sure she knows that I am. So yeah, that was my weekend away in York. It was lovely.
Good stuff.
What about yourself? What have you been up to?
I've caught some non-league football, not to talk about the evil round ball game again on the show. But yeah, last week I went to AFC Fylde versus Stockport County.
Fantastic.
It was 0-0. It was pretty dire. It wasn't the best of games. I think Stockport were pleased to leave there with a draw. Is probably how I would suggest the way they set up.
Right.
So it wasn't that fun to watch. I didn't realise that Stockport were quite such a Protestant group.
Okay.
But the chanting that they sang surprised me.
How so?
Well, like anti-Catholic, anti-IRA type stuff. Yeah.
That is surprising, actually. Isn't it?
It's something I've never heard of.
I've not experienced that in English. Although
I have years ago.
Experience with soccer is limited.
I have years ago in the past, but it's not something I'd noticed for a while. But so that was.
So all 6 of them getting involved with some.
No, they had a decent following. There was actually 2,400 people on for a Tuesday night.
Wow. In
the 6th tier of English football.
AFC are going well, though, aren't they? They're on the verge of promotion, I believe.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there that were either Preston or Blackpool fans, sort of casual observers of. They didn't have any. They had very small hardcore. There was no chanting really from the AFC Fylde fans I noticed. But it was, it's their new stadium's really nice.
Yeah,
and it was it's only down the end of down the road from me really.
Well, it's a walk-to place for you, isn't it?
So I went and checked that out, and
it's not an AFC Fylde shirt on under your hoodie, is it?
No,
it's just a flash of white.
No, it's just a white t-shirt with black sleeves.
Okay.
And then, what else? I had to go to work yesterday morning, so whilst you were setting off to York, I was going into work to do some disaster recovery testing, the most exciting of topics, and then hung out with my mother most of the morning. Excellent. Well, all morning, and then caught some of the rugby league in the afternoon, and
that's
pretty much it.
Sounds good. Excellent. Okay, well, that's us caught up. Who's been getting in touch with us since the last show?
Well, we start with our travelling hero Brian Davies at Brian Davies 12. I urge you to get on him on Twitter. He said, talk of my travels on this week's podcast reminded me of a blog I published throughout the 2013 Rugby League World Cup. I think I did 24 of the 28 games.
That's impressive, isn't it?
Do you know what? It would be impressive if it wasn't that it was Brian and I expect more. No, in all seriousness.
Why did you miss those 4?
The ones he couldn't get to, I think, were like the ones where it was in France on the same day as there was a game in England, and that sort of thing. You
have to admire his commitment.
It's amazing,
isn't it? That's fantastic.
There's more of that later on. He did send us links to, I think, the opening blog of his run, which I think must have been like just before it started, and then the final one. After the semi-final. Sorry, I'm not sure. He might have done one after the final too, but he sent us the one after the semi-final. So what I'll do is I've been holding on to those links to retweet after we've talked about it, in case anyone wants to go back and read it. I had a read of a few of them, a few of the other ones in between as well. I don't relive in that moment that Kevin Sinfield didn't kick dead, and then George Burgess couldn't keep his arms down. Then,
pragmatically speaking, it was a great game of rugby league, but that's not what stays with you, is it? It's just the fact that we got as close as we did.
The heartbreak of that, yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway,
but we've all forgiven Kevin Sinfield, haven't we, Mark?
We forget, we move on, we Brian Davies, anyway, check out his blog. That's all good stuff. Lee Whitnell said, shocked that Tom doesn't know what a long con is. Did you never watch Hustle? Grab the box set from any good bargain bin.
Now, I watched the odd Hustle here and there, but no, I've not heard the term.
I was very surprised.
Once you explained it to me, I grasped the concept pretty rapidly. The thing that it got me thinking about was... And that's why I was confused.
You're always on kind of like the short con, though, aren't you? Like, oh, I'll eat the biscuits, but then I'll leave the biscuit wrapper somewhere that eventually will be found, and then I'll get in trouble.
I don't particularly tend, living on my own with a sporadic 5-year-old, to get into much trouble for leaving wrappers in cupboards these days, Mark.
That's a good point.
So I'm all right. I wouldn't recommend you open many of the cupboards. There'll be an avalanche of trio wrappers coming out. But the long con thing made me think of the episode of Friends where I can't remember if it's Joey who's doing the acting or whether he's acting with someone else who's drunk and they can't read the script properly. And he says, "What on earth's wrong with you, long pause?" And that kind of threw me because that's what I was thinking of.
That's the long pause is in the one where it's Jeff Goldblum and he's reading the script and
that's right.
He says, "Oh, I thought it was like a character's name."
Character's name,
like an Red Indian thing.
What are you talking about? Long pause. So that's what threw me. That's why I didn't grasp what a long con was.
Fair enough. Cutthroat Jake says, another great podcast. This is good from John. I can sympathise with Mark on the concert going. Ended up going to one with my ex to see Pink Floyd after we split up. But things can be more awkward.
As he goes on to say.
I first met my wife's family at her dad's funeral. It was worse. She took both me and her ex.
Wow, that's... I'm not even going to start to try and slice comedy out of that. I think that's just... It takes the cake, really, doesn't it?
It's one of those things that's so amazing. You don't want to laugh at the tragedy of the situation of his beloved wife losing a father, but
no.
The picture of the scenario and how that all comes together.
It's very peep showy, isn't it? That story. I can almost hear a Corrigan kind of character in this. But again, trying not to extract too much humour from the passing of someone's father. But you've certainly beaten Mark on that one. I would say, John.
Yeah, there you go. Ethan O'Gorman said, another brilliant podcast by Mark and Tom. Love listening on the way to college on a Tuesday.
Oh, we love being in your ears, Ethan.
Yeah,
we do.
That's an old throwback as well, isn't it? Like where you listen to the show. We used to get a lot of that.
We haven't heard for a while for people who listen abroad. We used to get people telling us like what countries they'd listened in as well, didn't we?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Letting us know. So if you're listening now and you're on a beach somewhere, we've had people, sending it. We've actually had people send us pictures of themselves listening to the Super League podcast on beaches and on borders of African nations and things like that. So if you're listening now and you're somewhere not ordinary, like not Northern England, shall we say, or not in England, and it's
or Australia,
special or what have you. Yeah, we get a lot of Aussies. Let us know. Send us a picture or tell us where you're listening to, John, because that'll give us 45 seconds of material for next week, won't it?
There you go. Great stuff. Tea Drinkers Unite at Langers38, as we better know him. He said, it's a thin line between love and hate. Was Tyler Cass fan previously Tyler Katz fan? # mystery solved.
No, but I suspect we've got a new, slightly modified nickname for the young man. See if we can't make that catch on. That'd be brilliant.
I'm not sure. We don't want to alienate the young kid.
I think he's got pretty thick skin. I think
we've got plenty of good stuff coming in on that vein anyway. But boy,
do.
After there was Ollie Smith sent us a tweet yesterday that about Tyler's hatred of Catalan. It blew up. Like all the Cass fans hate Catalan. I don't know if it got worse after they felt an injustice because Jack Smith apparently gave more penalties to Catalan because Luke Walsh might have spoken to him once or twice about stuff. I don't know. Right. But I don't know if that blew it up. But there you go. We have Sarah McKenzie at Scoops28Mac. She said, Super League Pod told me to write my essays before finishing listening to the show. I still haven't finished listening to it, and the first kickoff is here.
Well, obviously she's not taking all our advice, is she? Or at least she's not working as hard as she might. But she still hasn't told us what she's writing essays for.
No, that's a good point. Maybe we could help her. We could have like a 5-minute segment in the shout-out and feedbacks where people can feed in anecdotes that can...
add some colour to your essays. Yeah, we're two intellectual gents. We could help. Or at least we know people. You're an intellectual gent.
I've done my time in essays over and again.
And I can turn a phrase. Yeah. So not that we think that Sarah can't.
No.
but you've got access to the wealth of Super League pod listeners here.
Yeah, we've got doctors, we've got college students,
we've got college students, we've got whatever